Hey,
Hello,
welcome.
welcome
Oh,
back.
yeah. So, before we begin, we are going to be using some brief clips from the movie The Royal Tenenbaums. It will be used solely for the purposes of commentary and educational analysis. All clips are shown in short excerpts and are transformed through psychological interpretation and discussion consistent with fair use under U.S. copyright law. This video is not intended to substitute for the original film, but to analyze its characters, themes, and dynamics from a clinical and psychological perspective. So go out and buy the movie and don't get us flagged for copyright infringement.
Yeah, don't demonetize us.
Yeah, I think we're gonna make like 2 cents off this video. So like
Perfect.
please don't rob us of our 2 pennies. No, no jokes, zero jokes. Please, we do not own, we are not affiliated with this picture. But buy it. It's a great movie. We picked it for a reason. We are starting our new Psychology of Movie series. We have 3 videos kind of lined up. We hope you like it. Today we're going to do The Royal Tenenbaums.
That's right. Yeah,
Pablo,
so
help me out.
kind of a new idea for a new season, right? We're coming back from a bit of a hiatus. We took kind of want to say almost a month.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have like families and like real lives. We have to touch grass occasionally. So sorry, guys, but we're back and you have our full attention. I'm kidding. We are actually trying to do a little bit more structure. We have about 6 months of the show under our belt now, which I think is a pretty great accomplishment. So moving forward, we're hopefully going to have a little bit more structured programming, and maybe we're going to give you guys more of a hint moving forward.
Yeah, that's right. So kind of wanted to bring a little bit more, different take. We had great success with excuse me.
Uh-oh, we just lost you. Your mic's out. Your mic cut out. Well, while he's maybe fixing his microphone issue, I would like to remind everybody that this show is brought to this show continues from your support. If you would like to support us, please join us on link below, join.thehopewellinstitute.com. You can join us. There's a way to give a support, or you can join our Patreon. We might have a link a little bit up there. Also, the success of this show is depending on your likes and retweets. If you like us, follow us on YouTube, retweet us, share us with your friends. It really boosts the algorithm. It really helps us out. How's that microphone
That's right.
treating you?
How's that? Does that sound better?
Oh, yeah. Oh, man,
The
buttery.
mic
Even
coming in?
better.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. Perfect. All right. Good stuff.
You sound like a real podcaster.
Maybe. I'm trying. All right. So yeah, we got really good reception from our reaction videos late last year.
Yeah, the Psychologist Reacts video was our
Yeah.
most popular live and our most popular edited and fully
And it was
show.
actually a member of our audience that suggested that forward us a DM. Hey, here's a list of movies that I think it would be interesting for you guys to look at from a very clinical psychology standpoint. No, not quite looking at the art and all that good stuff, although these movies are beautiful. The idea is to do a kind of like a character analysis on, or the themes at least, that these movies explore.
At least thematically, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So
the
Real
Groundhog's
Tenenbaums
Day was my idea, just because next Monday
that's
is
right.
Groundhog's Day.
and Royal Tenenbaums being one of one of our favorite movies. So here we are. So yeah, let's dive right into it. So Dr. Perrin, first tell me, why do you like this movie so much, and why is it an interesting kind of case study or exercise in psychology?
Oh gosh, I could answer that from different levels. One is a movie appreciator. I actually think Wes Anderson is one of my favorite directors. He has a great directing style. And
Agreed, 100%.
what I think is really great about this one is that this was still one of his earlier movies where he was developing and figuring out his style. One thing that I really love, I'm going to give a little bit of behind the scenes lore. The main character the main character Royal, played by Gene Hackman, rest in peace. He did not want to do this movie. He was so disconnected that he criticized the director. He didn't like the story. He didn't see the point. So he kind of hammed it in a little bit. But that was so integral to the character's narcissism, the role of Royal in arresting the development of his children and his wife, that Gene Hackman's personal disconnection from the character translated so well into the psychology of how emotionally disconnected Royal was from his children, because that's what traumatized them. That's what
That
traumatized them during critical developmental stages.
that is very interesting, because I think you're right. I mean, he is coming on the movie. He is very just nonchalant about
Mhm,
everything, right?
mhm.
He's
Very atypical of narcissists. Most narcissists do not use bravado. They get very protective and defensive. "No, I'm perfect. No, I'm perfect." He was like, "Yeah, all right, it was me. I lied."
Yeah. Well, let's for those who haven't seen the movie, and for those who have and it's been a while, let's maybe just do a quick little overview on what this movie is about, and kind of more or less what are the overarching themes that we're going to be discussing.
Sure. Well, if you haven't seen the movie, just maybe like, retweet, follow, and then pause it, go watch the movie, and then come back, because I think it's really important that you see it before you get the themes. But I think it's really important from a structural standpoint is that this is a story about people who are arrested kind of at the peak of their childhood potential. A lot of them were identified really early on as childhood geniuses when they were maybe 10, 12, 14 years old, approximately. And they're stuck there because they've never really been able to move on or develop or form very healthy attachments with other people. And this movie is not a journey of them becoming happy or living happily ever after. It's a movie about them getting unstuck and learning to start having normal, healthy human development again. But we see it through the perspective of each of those characters, as they each had very unique relationships with their father, how they were each traumatized by their emotional needs not being met, and how their personality developed around their emotional needs not being met. And I want to be very particular about this personality, because that's the angle that I'm going to get from, or I'm going to be coming from. If we took only a diagnostic approach to this, simply from like a diagnostic statistical manual of mental disorders, uh, they would all be depressed.
Yeah.
But but because we're talking about personality, and I don't want to say personality disorder, though there are elements of this. These are people who have very serious difficulty in communicating and relating.
Right, right, right.
This shows up in their personality, and it's all radically different. So while they all might meet major depressive disorder, they all experience it uniquely different. And I'm going to try to frame that through the lens of personality.
Yeah, I think the movie does a really good job at pretty much immediately show you what you're dealing with.
Mhm.
I also want to
Like a
point out,
story. It's exposition. They tell you exactly, they're like, this was their potential, and then they never moved on from it.
right, because I was thinking today, just in movies that touch on similar themes like depression, spoilers and trigger alert, suicide, all those things. A lot of the times they come from a very kind of like very serious, very just solemn kind of standpoint, and they frame it from a very dramatic
Mhm,
point of view. But I think the Royal Tenenbaums does such a wonderful
mhm,
job at doing it lightheartedly, but also without really like undermining any of the themes or any of the the things that the characters are going through, right? But
Mhm.
it's also there's always a layer of relatability. Also, the movie just moves along. There's never any lull. There's
Mhm.
any moment where there's not something or some form of character development happening, and it just kind of happens also in it just it kind of happens in real time. I want to show personally, this is one of early clips that I think it's this is just hilarious. But it's like it's not funny, but it's like really funny, which is kind of like what this whole movie is about.
On the night of her 11th birthday, they had agreed to invite their father to the party.
What'd you think, Dad?
Didn't seem believable to me. Why are you wearing pajamas? Do you live here?
He has permission to sleep over. Well, did you at least think the characters were well developed?
What characters? There's a bunch of little kids there dressed up in animal costumes.
Good night, everyone.
He's such a dick. Like, he just cannot possibly pretend for a moment. It's like, oh my God, yes, sweetie, that was great, that was perfect.
But that's the fundamental flaw of what we understand as a narcissistic personality. Now, when we talk about narcissistic personality disorder, very severe disruption in your ability to relate to other people, they can only see the world through their own eyes. What we understand is what we call egocentrism. He's egocentric. So this is one of the subtle differences between what we would understand as a narcissistic personality disorder and his egocentrism. He was just blunt and direct because that's how he'd want somebody to tell him if he created art.
Yeah.
Empathy would dictate that you put yourself in the mind of an 11-year-old girl on her birthday and she worked really hard and you're supposed to celebrate that.
So you think he has a lack of empathy?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Almost to a manipulative degree, to an instrumental degree.
Oh yeah.
He sees people. He sees people as things and extensions. When he consoled his son over the death of his wife, the compliment was about her appearance. He said, "Oh, I'm sorry that your wife died.
Yeah,
she was a very beautiful woman."
She was a very beautiful woman.
It's a shallowness because he can't see the world through other people's perspectives. He only sees the world through his own.
Also,
until his developmental arc where he becomes useful or he wants to become useful.
Also, he plays the victim, right? He takes what other people are experiencing and then makes him about himself, right? Like when the two boys are playing in the working out of the gym or whatever at the Y, and he shows up on the other side of the fence and he's like, "Oh yeah, sorry about your loss. I didn't meet her. I didn't get to have that. I didn't blah 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 blah. I know your mom died, but
that's egocentrism. It's from his person. He sees the world through his own. He can only what we kind of understand as theory of mind, or what we affectionately would say as theory of mind 101, is that other people think differently than us. I know, but fundamental big idea. His doesn't exist.
Yeah. Right. And I think this scene, this first scene where in the about the play, it is a big also foreshadowing too, right? It's like, well, I wonder how that's gonna end up, I wonder what that's gonna do for the kid.
Well, remember that every one of these children, they are arrested at the peak of their potential. One of Margot's themes, the daughter's themes, is that she's not a genius. She's just ordinary. And one of the fundamental flaws of, or what we would consider a narcissistic injury, is kind of a realization that we may have an ordinary life, and we resist that. We don't want to have an ordinary life. How she or how her character maybe tried to resist against an ordinary life is this perchance I will become this world famous playwright, but she's just ordinary. But the theme is that she was trying to tell them that the whole time. She was the last one. Everyone else seemed to be the last one to discover that she's not a genius, because
Right.
nobody understood her, no one listened to her, no one heard her expression or what she wanted to say. She probably did just give an average play, but the expectation was about potential. You have potential, and they're stuck there.
Mhm.
I hope I made sense with that.
Oh yeah, yeah, and you know, all of that. How much part of that in real life is you know, parents kind of projecting their own maybe complexes or insecurities from maybe not achieving what
Mhm.
they thought they would, or
Yeah, the
reaching their
unlived life.
potential when
Yeah,
yeah.
their own unlived life. So Royal himself was a successful litigator, so he went on to be very he had some power and success before his son had him disbarred. But this idea though is, well, I'm smart and successful, so you guys should be smart and successful. A lot of times a parent will put the unlived life on them, which is, well, I never had a chance to play football because my parents made me study, so you're going to be the football star. Or I've always wanted to be a rock star, but you know, I grew up in the middle of nowhere, so you're going to play scales 8 hours a day. I don't like the guitar.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of this was they were all impressed. Well, I don't want to say they were all impressed to be successful. I think the only one who was expected to be successful was the favorite, the um,
Chaz.
yeah. No, no,
Oh,
Chaz was
Richie.
obsessive. He became successful despite himself. The
Right.
tennis player. He was the
Yeah.
favorite. He was the one
Richie.
that was,
Yeah.
yeah, Richie.
So we agree that they all have depression, they
Y
in one way or another, right? But then
Yes.
what is kind of like their own individual idiosyncrasy? So starting with Margot,
Mhm.
I mean, made some notes of, you know, she definitely kind of has some like nihilistic, just totally what, you know, I don't even care anymore, kind of thing.
You can't access it.
Right.
It's 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 more of a, people can't understand me, so I will make it so that I will create a life around me that no one can understand me and nobody will understand me. What she has is a pretty big wall up. But beyond depression, depression is symptomatic of what we would consider what we would consider attachment, but attachment as in how they are able to successfully relate and make authentic connection to another human being. She has never been able to make an authentic connection to another human being. So a lot of her battle,
What do you think that is? Because
because,
huh?
well, she's adopted.
Yep.
First and foremost. Secondly, because she was adopted by an egocentric person, he never attempted to make an authentic emotional connection with her. And
Right.
because he was ostensibly the opposite sex parent, uh, he created a line between truly being known and maybe this affection, right? So she can marry somebody and have sex with them, or she can have affairs, but they don't know her. They don't know that she smokes, or they don't know that she has this rich in her life, or that she's experimented with things. These are all very private experiences for her.
Mm.
Her developmental arc is learning to kind of come out and be known and be seen and be recognized, because she was never allowed to come out and be seen or be recognized because she didn't fit in. She was neither a genius nor a redneck. I think she was adopted from from like
From a family
Appalachian.
in Indiana, yeah. No,
Yeah.
in Indiana, yeah. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so what do you think she just has, like, do you think she has, or how would you, you know, put this in psychology terms? Do you think she
Oh
has,
my
like,
gosh. I have it on a couple different languages here. Let me actually get my notes
do you
on
think she
her.
has, like, an identity?
No, I'm telling you. Well, what we would say for identity is that her identity is not. It's. I guess I would say she has a diffuse identity, because it's not, her internal world is separated from her external world. How other people view her is very manufactured. she makes sure that how people see her, how people know her, is how she wants to be seen and known. I want to maybe explain it for mirroring, right? If you have a baby and or a little kid and then they fall, and the first thing that they do is they look at you because they want to see how you react to their fall. And if you go, oh no, because they bit their head, they're going to go, oh no, and and become scared and maybe start crying. If you go, ta-da, ha 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 ha, the kid might smile and laugh, and even though they had the same fall, they're going to have a completely different emotional experience. And the developmental part of that is mirroring. You mirror. If you have effective mirroring with healthy enough caregivers, you are going to develop a higher capacity for regulating your emotions. She did not have adequate mirroring. So she has a very flat affect, and that even people who try to connect with her are met with Gwyneth Paltrow's famous smoldering 1,000-yard stare with a cigarette in her mouth. That even if she didn't have a cigarette in her mouth, she could look at you like she did. Just oh, she's something.
There's one scene that just, I think the framing, his frame, Wes Anderson's framing is just absolutely brilliant. And it kind of, where is it? I'm trying to remember. Oh, is it here? No, I'll find it. But it just kind of like, it totally portrays Margot in just like the most perfect way. Kind of, this one frame kind of almost explains her altogether. I'll find it anyway. Okay, cool. Moving along. So yeah, she's very interesting, very complex. What about Richie? So this is the guy. Yeah, he's the favorite. He's the one that everybody kind of thought that he was gonna make it, right? That he was gonna be the actual one, the only one that was like actually talented.
Well, tennis star, and not to take away from athleticism, but like this is like the waspiest way to be like a millionaire, is to be like to play tennis for a living.
Yeah.
But his fundamental flaw is idealism. He in many ways is a lot like his dad, in terms that he just expects that everything is going to turn out right and be okay. In many ways, he's as disconnected from the world as he's probably more disconnected from the world as any of them. He probably has the most difficult time reality testing, because he's the only one who trusted Royal when Royal was manipulating and lying to the whole family. Now, it was necessary for his developmental arc, but this idealism is, I think, kind of anchored in a naivete. And I think his idealism was burst. And I think once he was able to be ordinary or live or tolerate an ordinary life, he went through his developmental arc.
I also want to note that throughout the entire time, both Richie and Margot have very like childlike demeanor. You know, how they sit in couches, how, Richie is always kind of like grasping for dad's approval, right?
Well, he's the only one who's had it. He's always had it, but that's the relationship. He's attached to his father, the way children are. But this is why I go back to anchoring that this isn't a story about people becoming happy. This is a story of people becoming unstuck. And they are all stuck in almost a perpetual or delayed adolescence. But how they have been stuck in their adolescence is separate. But that I think you're really highlighting a point, is that when you are stuck in an adolescence, you are stuck in your capacity to process and manage stress. And so you are going to process and manage stress like an adolescent. So their tantrums or their breakdowns are a lot of it is breakdowns in their object relations, how they perceive other people in terms of safety, intimacy, trust. often based off of their same or opposite sex parent, which is why the men are going on different journeys is Margot.
Let's talk about the relationship between Richie and Margot. Richie is clearly in love with Margot since they were kids, right?
Yeah.
How is that? Where does that kind of come from? How can we interpret that as to where that, do you think him as a kid process that he's not blood related to Margot? Or?
I don't think that that's a very compelling part of the story. I think that's a narrative device to make their romance be a little bit less incestuous and creepy. I think that was probably just the director going, no, let's make her adopted so this isn't more weird.
Okay.
I actually think Chaz is the more compelling because he doesn't just have depression. He doesn't just have the arrested development from adolescence at the peak of his business potential, and his Oedipal dynamics with his father that he has to overcome and defeat him.
Yeah.
But also the PTSD and complex grief because within a year of this movie starting, his wife was killed in a plane crash and his children and dog miraculously survived.
Yeah.
So
he's getting over trauma and he's grieving, right? Like his is a story of grief, right?
But
and how he's processing that.
It's the susceptibility to PTSD. This is a lot of things people don't understand is that when people experience trauma, and most people who experience trauma do not go on to develop post-traumatic stress disorder. That's a very rare and uncommon response to extreme circumstances. Some people are more predisposed to go on to develop PTSD after a trauma. He is a classic case because he already had those obsessive traits. He already had very rigid, anal retentive qualities that when he experienced a trauma, what he did is he doubled down. He had doubled down on the traits, the exacerbated traits that he already had. He just cranked it up to an umpteenth degree. And his was about control. His was about, hey, I'm going to tolerate uncertainty by becoming by becoming a business owner or successfully suing my father or whatever it might be. So after that, he became overly controlling. And when he is able to process and develop again, what does he do? He explodes. He loses it. What we would call an anal expulsion, like he just shit his emotions everywhere. He chased a childhood friend around the house and threw him over a wall. Yeah. The most composed and controlled person in the movie.
So he's very compulsive. He's manic. He is
not compulsive.
He's not compulsive.
He is obsessive.
Obsessive. Okay, perfect.
There's a different now. Obsessive compulsive disorder is an extreme version. Now, why I said that I want to be careful of saying personality, but not personality disorder, is that every one of these children are kind of neurotic within kind of the high borderline personality organization range, like what we would call a borderline personality organization, not borderline personality disorder. They have intact reality testing. They know that they're all a little weird. They know that their life isn't right. They're not psychotic and delusional. Richie's a little idealistic, but they all are aware that something is wrong. So he's obsessive. If he were obsessive compulsive, he would have an urgency the moment he has a thought, like, oh, the sprinkler system would be a great example. So he came in and he said, oh, we're moving in here because my house doesn't have a sprinkler system. She's like, well, this one doesn't have either. And he goes, oh, well, we should take care of that. An obsessive compulsive would say, I'm on it. And he'd turn around and he would make sure that a sprinkler system was in. So he was defending against it. He was obsessive, but he's not, he doesn't cross that boundary into probably a lower borderline organization.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's okay. Perfect. Well, that's really good to know.
Well,
yeah,
for being polite, I actually think that this is very what I mean by high level and low level borderline organization. I think I would have to spend an entire hour describing. So I actually kind of want to glaze over this, but I'm going to give a quick breakdown of psychotic, neurotic, and borderline. Neurotic, you're just a little weird, you know something's wrong. Psychotic, you're weird and you don't know something's wrong. Like you think you are Napoleon and you want to eat raw meat, so you go into restaurants and you just go into the back and you open a freezer and you just start eating away at steak and you think that's fine, right? borderline somewhere in between. You get kind of these very atypical but reliable and predictable behaviors, and you're kind of vacillating between that delusional quality. You might be defending against it, or you might be resisting awareness of something that you're doing. But anyway, none of them are psychotic. They are neurotic to kind of that border into the yeah. I'm going into the weeds here.
I want to talk about this little scene, this scene right here, and I want to know what you think, kind of like the interaction between Royal and Chaz, and then what Royal says to Chaz here.
Hey! What? Where have you been?
Well, we just stepped out to get some air.
What's that?
Holy shit. That's not... What is that? Oh, no, that's dog's blood.
That's even worse.
You stay away from my children. Do you understand?
My God, I haven't been in here for years.
Hey! Are you listening to me?
Yes, I am! I think you're having a nervous breakdown. I don't think you recovered from Rachel's death.
Oops, resistance to the awareness of a transference. Yeah, there are a lot of Oedipal dynamics there. As we grow up, we are literally smaller than our father. Where we can have the huggiest, sweetest, Santa Clausiest father in the world, but they're bigger than us, and when they're angry, that's terrifying because we're fragile and small. And so, like, we grow up and we get bigger, and sometimes we take that kind of personally, and we want to get revenge on that bigger, stronger figure. Again, even if he was the huggiest, like, sweetest guy ever, it's, I remember when you were bigger than me, and that was scary because you could have annihilated me. He parentifies he has been struggling for that over his dad since the beginning. That is an example of it, but even the lights out scene, I think, is the best example of it, because he literally pokes his head in and says, "Lights out, Dad. You can read again in the morning." Bam. That's an Oedipal dynamic. He's
I want to
parent his dad.
Yeah, this is super interesting. I think that dynamic is really well portrayed here. Let's shift real quick. Let's go to Ethylene. We have one of our viewers here on X is asking us here. Is the mother depressed?
Can we hold on? Can I test this? How do we? Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, look at that.
Oh, that's kick ass.
from Aaron Gosley, right? I think that's a new feature.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so is the mother depressed or stuck in her divorce? Really would like to dive into her psychology. Yeah, she's super like in the back, you know, she's kind of like very flies under the radar, but I think that tells so much about her too.
She is probably the hardest working person there. Now, I know there's a lot of movie magic involved. All of the tables are set. Like she was hosting like a bridge night, and it doesn't look like they have any staff in their house. Presumably she's the one who's making sure that there's food on the table. And
Pagoda.
Yeah.
Right. Pagoda is the best.
But so yes, she is depressed, but she is the anchor of the family. Where she's arrested is she doesn't do anything for herself. Everything she does is for her children or for the household. And even when she thinks Royal is dying, she invites him into the home and she takes care of him. The only thing that she wants, the only thing that she ever seems to show any desire for, is marriage to her new beau, this new gentleman. And it's awkward because he's a sensitive man, and he asks her to marry her very awkwardly, and she doesn't know how to respond. But it's not because he's not romantic, and it's not because she doesn't love him. She desires him greatly, but she isn't allowed to desire. She isn't allowed to want. Royal can. Royal's egocentric. Whatever he wants, he goes after. If he wants a cheeseburger and French fries, he's going to eat a cheeseburger and French fries. but all she wants is this new relationship, and there's still reluctance because she's stuck developmentally.
Can we look at this? This scene is just awesome.
Please.
Ethylene became an archaeologist and had overseen excavations for the Department of Housing and the Transit Authority.
Apropos
Department of Housing and Transit, so selfless.
I-9 adjustments.
She taught a bridge class twice a week with her friend and business manager, Henry Sherman.
Taught a bridge class. Very giving.
It would probably be advantageous for your marital status to be legally established as single in light of the circumstances.
What do you mean?
I mean for tax purposes.
But I thought...
Ethylene,
Yes?
will you marry me? I love you. Did you already know that?
No, I didn't.
Since her separation from her husband, she had had many suitors.
Right. So what can we infer from this?
It's everything that he listed is something that she was giving to other people, something that she was doing, something that she was giving of herself to someone else. For the first time, somebody offered something to her. Hey, I love you. I want to marry you. And not charming, not romantic, but like she was just stunned, and there was an innocence to it. There was an earnestness to her response. And that was because, oh, I don't know what receiving love is supposed to be like. I only know how to give love. And her Royal had to come back into her life, and she had to go through these arcs for her to be able to move past that. And now she was able to express, because remember, even when he told her, hey, I want you to tell Royal about us, and she says, I don't know if it's the right time. She was thinking of Royal. She was not thinking of herself. When she starts thinking about herself, she starts growing. She starts developing. That is how she becomes unstuck. But to answer the question, yes, that she's depressed, but how she is influenced in this attachment is she has never learned how to actually take on and actually feel. And this is a very common thing. Sometimes people are given love and they don't know how to receive it. They don't know how to, someone can say, I love you. How can I help? And they go, I don't, what does that mean? That's
So where does that depression comes from? Her depression, where does that come from? Does it come from just like an inherent inability to receive, to feel like she's deserving of anything?
Well,
maybe from like,
she had children within someone who is egocentric. So like ostensibly the story is that Royal traumatized all of them, but realistically these stem back towards her own childhood development. There is kind of an invisible hand of the intergenerational trauma, but that's mostly explored through Royal, through his mother, going to his mother's gravesite. That potentially she is the reason that he grew up as an egocentric kind of piece of shit. But that's never really fully explored, and we know nothing about her family of origin. But realistically, the kinds of people who end up in a relationship with an unhealthy version of a Royal Tenenbaum, these egocentric people with narcissistic features, especially with kind of that instrumentality, that manipulativeness, that kind of psychopathic instrumentality, they grew up with it. So they were often the peacekeepers in their own home. Maybe a parent had a substance abuse disorder or was just not very well put together, and she probably started cooking, cleaning, managing the household at a very young age, that by the time she survived her childhood, she was already doing that. She was already giving and offering, being just being useful. And someone like Royal who loves, oh, you're useful, great, I can use you. Match made in heaven. It is a compatible pathology.
Yeah, and Royal knows exactly how to manipulate her, right? And he knows exactly how to get to her. And in that scene, where they're walking down the street, and she is just very, very, firmly walking ahead, and she's not even looking back. She's very dismissive, like whatever, Royal, whatever. And he goes, immediately he goes, "I'm dying," and then she just breaks down immediately, and all of those
no suspicion.
barriers and that
He's not even selling it very well. He even
No.
says, "Nah, I'm not really dying," and then she gets mad. Oh no,
Okay,
no, I
I
am
am dying.
She was kind of easy to manipulate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one that it's this is my oversight, but this guy is really interesting too. I'm gonna add this fella right here. Sorry about that. Boop, boop, boop. Check it out. Oh no! Wait, hold on. This guy, Mr.
Oh yeah,
this
the
guy.
neighbor. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He wants
Eli.
He's
Eli Cash.
Mm-hmm.
Eli Cash. Let's talk about Eli Cash. This guy is interesting too because
she was the idealized mother. His was absent. His was not involved. So he grew up in the Tenenbaum household, fantasizing that he himself could be one. But
all he wants to do in his
Tenenbaum.
life is to be a Tenenbaum,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even though they are just extremely, extremely flawed people and family, and all he wants is to be a Tenenbaum.
Well, they were gifted. So like one of them was a contender and athlete. You know, one of them objectively did make successful businesses at an age very atypical that people are successful in business. So when Eli finally got his, I think it was his second book, had some sort of acclaim that he wasn't anticipated, suddenly people were applauding and telling him he was great and he was smart. So his narcissistic injury was that he was the poor guy across the street with like a drunk mom, and he would go over to these people who had everything, and then now he gets to have it, but his pathology came out. He wasn't healthy. He wasn't prepared for that, and he was a one-hit wonder. He wasn't actually a genius any more than Margot was a genius playwright. And so his confronting his own ordinariness was how he became unstuck, and presumably went through drug treatment center. But the reason why he was not healthy enough to handle fame was because he was arrested in his development and accepting that he wasn't a Tenenbaum, and that was okay. He could be. I think he didn't even have that ordinary life. I think he was a professor at a university.
Yeah, right. Yeah, something like that. He was
he's not dumb. He's not
academic, right?
Yeah, he was not unintelligent. He just wasn't a genius. He was just a one-hit wonder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's really interesting. And pretty much they just say it outright too here. This is a great scene too. Right here.
Yeah.
I'm not in love with you anymore.
I didn't know you ever were.
Let's not make this any more difficult than it already is.
Okay.
Like he just wants to be considered, right? He wants to be part of it.
I'm not in love with you.
Yeah, he's
either.
talking to the wrong person.
Yes, I know. You're in love with Richie, which is sick and gross.
Look how stunned she is to be known. How dare you know me?
Do you
You
send
know how
my
I
mother
feel?
your clippings and your grades from college?
Please stop belittling me.
Inadequacy. Narcissistic injury. That's one of the themes.
You never gave me the time of day till I started getting good reviews.
Your reviews aren't that good.
But the sales
She's just like her dad. Look at her being blunt and direct like Royal.
Let's not make this any more difficult.
Yeah, he's like, all I just wanted is for you to for you and your mother and your family to notice me.
Well, they showed it in the exposition at the beginning. He grew up across the street, and his mom, I think, was like in a lazy boy watching television, falling asleep with a cigarette in her mouth or something. And then it said he was a staple. He was a fixture at the household. He was there morning, noon, and night. It was they suggested that he could not escape his own ordinary upbringing fast enough. His fantasy was that he was welcome in that what he perceived as an extraordinary family. His willingness to separate from Margot, which was perhaps his fantasy of finally being a Tenenbaum, was kind of evidence of his willingness to walk away and kind of forge his own direction. It's very healthy. But this is why I keep saying that the beautiful theme of this movie is this isn't a story about them becoming happy. It's a story of them healthy. It's a story of them being able to tolerate an ordinary unhappiness that they otherwise couldn't tolerate. And I would even go further as to say that's the difference between a depression, a major depressive disorder, and an ordinary unhappiness. At least you're living, at least you're building a life with ordinary unhappiness.
Mm-hmm. What about Raleigh St. Clair?
Distracted.
The most on Bill Murray character.
You know, I gotta say that Bill Murray has such a unique relationship with this director, because when the director had like 2 pennies to rub together, he just like bumped into Bill Murray and said, "Hey, will you just like play this like out of touch zany character in this like college movie that I have?" And Bill Murray said yes, and he gave 110% for that role. And since then, anytime this director has asked him, he has shown up, and he could play any character he wants.
Mm-hmm.
What I really liked about this character is there was a subtlety to him. He was a sensitive man, like Danny Glover, Donald Glover. I always get him mixed up with Childish Gambino.
Danny Glover. This one is
Thank
Danny.
you. Danny Glover. They're both kind of sensitive men, and he's very distracted. He's very distracted by his intellectual pursuit, the Dudley character. What makes him a perfect relationship for Margot is that he doesn't have to know her. She can keep an entire secret life from him, and anytime he shows concern, she can say, "Don't worry about it, baby, just go in there." And he'll go, "Okay, all right." The exact opposite of her. Well, what works about her everything that works about her relationship with her father, and nothing that doesn't work about her relationship with her father. What works is he doesn't know me. What doesn't work is he doesn't have to know me. But healthy relationships do require true, authentic connection with someone, not that mask, not her blank expression.
Mm-hmm. And you know, throughout the movie, he's just totally down in the dumps, begging. You know, he's like, "Why are
He wants
you
to know
doing
his
this
wife.
to
He
me?"
wants to make authentic connection with his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's trying the whole time until he finds out that he's been made a cuckold of, and then he's offended.
Yeah. And then he takes a cigarette.
Yeah. Well, I love how offended he is. He's just like, harumph, harumph, and he leaves. He just storms off. I actually think he's one of the more healthy, just awkward and not very interesting characters. He's obsessed with someone who's even less interesting than he is.
So my question is, at the end, when they're all in why is he in the wedding? I mean, I guess he is still Margot's husband, I suppose, but she clearly has no interest, right? And then at the funeral, he's also there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what keeps him around? You know, is he just like, well, I'm just part of these gang of
Occam's razor,
dysfunctional people.
Occam's razor, that he's Bill Murray, and if you're a director and you want your best actor in a scene, you're going to put him in your scene, whether it makes sense for his character.
Well,
or not.
let's suspend his belief a little bit.
I'm hoping that with Margot being able to communicate, that there's maybe a chance for her to say, "All right, let's try to make this relationship healthy. Like let me come out a little bit more and see if we can love each other." I don't know if that's what played out. I don't know if he left her. I don't know if she left him. Up in the air. Part of the narrative device that the director likes to use is that his movies play out like storybooks, and that this one even has a narrator very clear beginning, conflict, and end. So it does kind of close with all of the character in almost not again not a happily ever after, but a comfortably unarrested ever after for all
Yeah.
of the characters. So I do think that some of that was a device. Whatever does end up happening between them, marital therapy can be very successful, and if they do end up to separate, that could also be considered a successful outcome if they're not a good
Um,
match.
just pivoting a little bit, we haven't talked about the Richie's suicide attempt.
Mhm.
What do you make of that? Do you have any notes on that?
Well, the facade of an ideal life collapsed. Remember, he was the idealist. So part uh, part of the facade of a perfect life fell for him, and I really do think that he was the most detached from reality of all of the of all of the characters because he was the favorite. While Royal essentially neglected his other kids, he didn't neglect this one. He took him out, celebrated him until he, screwed up and, didn't win, and then he disappeared for a while. But I don't know, even his first scene where he's on the boat, he just struck me as just detached. The way somebody who has only known love and not love as in I truly appreciate you, but hey, you're the good one. Oh, you're the successful one. Oh, you're the blah 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 blah. I mean, I think he was just traveling the world on a boat. That's one of those like, oh, I'm lonely. I'm gonna go take my millions and cruise the world.
So
kind
how
of.
much so him doing that, slitting his wrist, how much is that actually related to Mark to not realizing his love for Margot, and, and how much is it just like everything, is it because the movie kind of makes you think that it's because he just kind of sees no real uh path forward with Margot, and he's like, well, without Margot I'm just gonna die, kind of thing.
Well,
um
all of it, but all of it's the ideal that his father is actually a good and redeemed man who's going to come back and everyone's going to come home and everyone's going to be happy and maybe he's going to finally get together with his adopted sister and then maybe he'll start touring again and he'll win all of the championships. He's an idealist. He's in his mind the world was only going to get better or the world could only be better. He didn't have his love. Part of his journey. Now he kind of gets her. They do express their love for each other, but she does kind of say no at the end of the day, no. And I think he's okay with that. He actually kind of has this cool like it's almost an ambivalence. I He could just as well date his sister moving forward or separate from her moving forward. That ambivalence where he could just as well be with her and not be with her is the healthy outcome. It is ability to tolerate an ambiguity that he didn't have before. He could only tolerate the ideal, the fantasy. Now it was a gesture. He killed, I think, the idealistic version of himself. He killed
Okay.
his naive version, and he went on to teach adolescent tennis at the Y, the
Mhm.
least waspy thing ever. He starts touring the world crying on a private boat. He saw 2 poles and 7 seas or whatever the narrator said, right?
Mhm.
To the least waspy thing ever, where he's actually teaching ordinary people tennis.
Mhm.
It's a
Interesting.
relation. It's a
That's a
willingness to live an ordinary life and to tolerate ordinary unhappiness. That is
I
the
really like that what you said, like that kind of interpretation of it, that he's slicing that part of him away, and kind of, because Margot also asks, are you gonna do it again? And he says, I don't think so. that kind of sucked, you know. And
Mhm.
and he probably just like knew that he didn't have to, you know, that
Oh,
he was
he's
like,
integrated. He's integrated at the end. Like that's what I say with that ambivalence. Like he's so cool. Like he's just she kisses him. That's his fantasy. That was the ideal. He was the idealist. He finally had it. And what was his response?
"Eh."
Ambivalence.
Right.
That's a
Yeah, yeah,
healthy
yeah.
ambivalence, a healthy ability to tolerate ambiguity.
Right. Um, how much do you think these people represent? I mean, is this accurate? Is this kind of is this a plausible scenario, or is this movie-esque and far-fetched and
Well,
exaggerated?
I think the socioeconomic piece, like they had like a block, like their house was like a block, like it had wings, like it had offices, it had like a ballroom in it for them to like host bridge night events. They never really spoke about where exactly how much money they had, but their affluence did kind of afford them a flexibility. The infinite reroll, my brother likes to call it. When you're wealthy enough and you fail, if you're rich enough, you can just re-roll it. It's like, oh, I now own a tequila industry. Oh, failed at that. Well, now I'm going to be a pro tennis player. Oh, failed at that. Now I'm going to teach. Real humans don't get infinite re-rolls. We maybe get one if we're lucky.
Mhm.
So I do think that the socioeconomic factor is a play there. The fact that some of them are truly genius gifted, I think, plays a part of it. But if you do suspend kind of that to like a realistic zone, yes, it is very common. It's very common to not have your emotional needs at very critical developmental stages of childhood, and that your personality develops around those unmet needs, or tolerating the pain of those unmet needs, because we have to kind of develop those inner resources to get them met. And that is who we become. That becomes our profession. That becomes how we relate to people. It becomes how we communicate to people. It becomes our personality. But it doesn't have to be pathological, so long as it's unstuck, so long as you're developing, so long as you're continuing to grow. They
Mhm.
were stuck. They were unable to move forward until their father dealt with his egocentrism and learned that he needs to give, or he can give, and that he can derive pleasure from giving. And that's all he started doing at the end, and it healed everyone in his family.
Yeah. Um, just real quick in regards to Chaz's kids, I think it's really interesting that, you know, Royal at some point says, uh, you know, take care of your kids, or do something about this or something, you know, you don't want to end up in this situation kind of
Yeah,
thing.
like me, like us.
um
Yeah.
and I think it's also, I can't imagine that it's a coincidence that the two kids are probably about the same age that Chaz and Richie were, right around when we pick up in the story, in their like
Mhm.
that is a very crucial um time of the development, right, of the
Mhm.
children, where they starting to assimilate and rationalize, right,
Mhm.
and they're not in la la land anymore, they're actually starting to absorb
Your your
the
brain is
worldview.
developed enough
um
to know what's going on, but not developed enough to know why. It
right,
is
right.
susceptible for it to invent rules around the world, that help rules about the world that help them survive their childhood, but those rules about the world are through the lens of a childhood brain. They're not always the most accurate, and they're rarely the most helpful. But
Yeah.
the $20 word is intergenerational transmission, where how I'll joke about this, because like my grandpa used to like look in like if we had the refrigerator open too long, he would be like, close the door, think about what you want, and open it again, like in that like tonality. And like my dad would say it to us, and like the moment I heard that coming out of my mouth, I was like, you know what, there might be something to this whole intergenerational transmission thing. I don't want to say it the way grandpa did, because he never
Right,
said it to
right.
me, right? So that was kind of this thing. I kind of messed up my kids by maybe being too only seeing things my way, that egocentrism. How Chaz was kind of stuck in his complex bereavement and his obsession was very similarly egocentric. It's my way or the highway. I'm going to do drills, or I'm going to have you guys go to the exercise, 14 times a week or whatever it might be. I think this is probably a good time for us to start winding down.
Yeah. Man, time flew by. This is fun.
Yeah.
This guys, this was kind of like designed almost like a pilot episode to see how this played out, but I like it. I mean, I like this. I actually, it's a little bit rudimentary, but I actually like having this PowerPoint presentation.
No, I think it's great. Plus, I just love movies. This is how I watch movies anyway. This goes through my head every movie I watch. This is like a normal thing for my brain.
Yeah, this was really fun. I think it's this is a movie that I love, and we actually have a list of movies that we love on deck. But I think it's really interesting to come in with a different angle. Why would I do this? But to come in actually wanting to understand the characters and the movie and the themes from a psychology standpoint. I mean, you're the doctor here, I'm the layman. So now it's really fun to kind of come in. So I invite our audience that tune in today, that if you've seen this movie before, go and rewatch it and look for these things that we talked about. Or if you haven't watched it, go and do it.
Yeah.
It truly is. It's an amazing movie. We talked about some, kind of deep issues and some serious psychological themes, but it's a very feel good movie. I think it's also the first movie where he actually started to hone in into his Wes Anderson style, the pastels, the symmetry, the kind of
everything he does moving forward is like Royal Tenenbaums concentrated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's a fabulous movie. Yeah, this is great. This is great.
We have two more movies on deck. Next week is Groundhog's Day, so we thought it would be appropriate to watch Groundhog's Day.
Yeah,
so we will do another psychology of movies again. And then after that,
we're gonna see this cat again.
Right. And then we're gonna do hit A Beautiful Mind. So join us. If there's another movie that you want to see us review, send it. If this gets a lot of views, we're gonna probably analyze a bunch more movies. Right. If you have questions, we'll maybe answer it in the next show. Wes Anderson or any person who worked on any of these movies, if by any weird random happenstance you watch this
and you want to come in here and talk,
thank you for your work. We're huge fans. Please don't demonetize us. Feel free to shoot a message. We'll read it online. We'll do all of your movies. We'll analyze every Wes Anderson movie.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to do that. Yeah,
Isle of Dog. Let's go.
Isle of Dog. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you to the Hopewell Institute for making this possible. Thank you, Dr. Parent, for always bringing in your insight and your expertise. Thanks. Yeah. See you next week.
Thank you, Pablo. We would not have a show if not for our wonderful producer.
It's glad to be a service.
Thank you, everybody, for coming here to talk about psychology and psychotherapy.
See you next week.